Great. Welcome to our third day of our Bhagavad Gita reading. I'm Radha Britti, and I'm here with my good friend Veda Sar, and we are attempting to lead us through the Gita here and make it super relevant and fun. So today we are starting with text 1.4 in the Gita. And again, if you want to follow along, you can on Vedabase or the Bhagavad Gita as it is book. I'll also share the screen and we can get into it. But how are you today, Veda?
I'm doing good. Today is a big day for us because we are celebrating uh, the festival, the biggest. They call it the biggest universal birthday celebration, and so Krishna's
And who's
birthday.
Krishna's birthday today?
Yes,
Yeah, so you guys have programs going on at the temple all day, all night.
started at 4:30 a.m. and will go on till midnight.
Wow, will you make it to midnight without a nap? Be honest.
Without a nap is the one day out of the year that I try to uh, do whatever it takes to stay up.
Oh, really? Man, I already plan on not making it to midnight without a nap. I'll definitely be taking a nap this afternoon. Yep. All right. Should we get into this?
Let's do it.
Wait, let me share my screen. Okay. So we have 1.4 up here. Oh, did you want to do an invocation, Veda?
I guess this is the invocation.
Okay,
You,
great.
can you zoom it in a little bit more?
I think that I have my whole screen sharing. Does it show up? Is it big enough for other people? Sometimes I don't know if it's a Veda thing or a me thing. Usually it's a me thing, but sometimes it's a Veda thing. Okay, that's like as much as I know what I'm
Okay,
doing, Veda.
we'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Okay.
We just read the Sanskrit just so that you can see what Sanskrit sounds like. It's a pretty cool language. Atra Shura Maheshwasa Bhimarjuna Samayudhi Yuyudhano Viratascha Draupadascha Maharatha.
Here in this army are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna. Great fighters like Yuyodhana, Virata, and Drupad. Did I get all those names right, Veda?
Yes, you got them all right.
Stressful. Okay, so we'll go back to our screen here. So we were at the point where Duryodhana is assessing the different sides, kind of comparing the different sides. And now he's shaken because he saw the Pandavas and he's kind of like intimidated because he sees that they have their stuff together and they look confident and ready to fight. And so he's kind of like he's a little bit intimidated. So now here in this verse, he's shaken, but he doesn't want to seem shaken. So he's now for the next 6 verses or so, he's going to do a comparative assessment between the two sides, between the two armies. So this is interesting. This is so like indicative of material thinking, and we see this all over. Like everybody loves to compare everybody, especially like in the age of social media now, right? Like it's like not only is everybody comparing everybody, but you're comparing yourself to everybody. Like you can even get on Instagram with like instantly feeling like, oh no, I'm not using my day productively enough, or I'm not fit enough, or smart enough, or making enough money. It's like it's just like everywhere, this epidemic of comparing ourselves. Or it's like, have you ever been to like a retreat where it's like the first thing people ask you is like, so how many years have you been in bhakti? I'm like, I don't know. uh, a few. Or like, oh, what do you do for a living? And then I'm always like, all right, should I go with nothing or should I go with I was a nuclear scientist? Which way do I want to go today to see which way I'm gonna get compared? It's just like it's crazy how we do this. What do you think, Veda?
I think it's human beings who are conditioned by material nature, it's inseparable nature to compare, because when you compare, then you have a competition, and competition gets you moving. If there is no competition in this world, then you probably just sit around and not do anything. And we have to compete, whether
I
it
don't know
is
that that's totally true though. If Because if you were really motivated by an internal goal that was really near and dear to your heart, then you would work at it regardless of what other people were doing around you, no?
internal goal. But what is that internal goal? Like to get a great job? To get a great job, if that's your internal goal, there is going to be a lot of competition, and people are going to crawl all over you, on top of you, to get ahead of you. That's just the nature of the material world. It runs on comparisons and competitions.
So you're
Those
saying that
are
it's inevitable.
his mode of passion. And you can see in this instance with Duryodhana, his, his mode of passion. He's trying to size everybody up. And it's normal that when we are operating in the mode of passion, we're going to try and size people up and to see how we can get ahead of them. I mean, think about your days when you're in your field of work. You are competing hard, and you don't like to lose, and you want to be number one, and that was your
You,
whole life.
you think you
You
know
lived,
me, Veda? You think you know
you
me?
lived, you lived on competition. You lived on competition. That was your fuel that kept you going. So that's just human nature, though. It's not just you. Everybody, passion, even in the spiritual world, we're competing. Even when we advance spiritually, there is competing. But there's no comparisons. Competing to serve the other one better. That's the competition. The material competition is, how can I push that person down and I can be the top dog.
Mhm.
So the competition is the nature of our existence. And Duryodhana is mode of passion. He wants to win this fight. He's a prince. He wants to remain a prince, and he wants to be the next king. So that's what he's doing. He wants to make sure that he really has got this in his bag.
All right,
That's
so you're saying that material competition is more kind of like ego centered, like about how can I be the best and show that I'm the best, and spiritual competition is more about kind of having a mutual center that you're serving, and therefore it's not so riddled with like anxiety and these like negative feelings that come up when we compare ourselves to others, because everybody's centered on the same goal and genuinely wants to serve that goal and recognizes that the contribution of everybody is contributing to that goal, and therefore it's kind of a different kind of competition. It's more like everybody's lifting each other up in it.
Yeah, the beauty of it is material competition. It comes from comparison, and that's all happening in the mind. It doesn't go too far. Maybe, maybe even intelligence, where the intelligence is contaminated, it goes up to that far. But the spiritual competition is, how can I serve this person better? Because this person has a little bit more evolved consciousness than me. I would like to have access to the spiritual pleasures that he's experiencing due to his high spiritual consciousness. So how can I have access to it? How can I serve this person better? So that's the spiritual competition.
Okay, so the material is maybe inevitable in that it's to function. We're going to have to kind of experience that on different levels, but we could start to train our consciousness towards this spiritual competition, and that it's more about how we can best serve a higher
Imagine,
purpose.
imagine a world where everyone in the world is thinking how to serve the other person better. I mean, that's it. That's the spiritual world. This material world will automatically transform into a spiritual world if we simply change our consciousness to thinking, how can I serve this person better? And everyone thinks like that. That's the real deal. That's the whole revolution of bhakti that we're talking about, that we need to have. That how can I serve? What can I do to serve you better? Imagine, even in your, translate this on a more practical level, right? Say you're in a relationship with someone. Just try to apply this in your relationship with someone and see how beautiful and nourishing both partners feel. You want to be in this world, you want to be in that relationship. The material world, it's manageable if we can cultivate this spiritual competition and not this egocentric competition of how I can get ahead. Rather, we're all just trying to simply lift everyone up. In order to lift everyone up, it's not that we are up and we're lifting people up, but we are lifting people up from the bottom. We're holding them and lifting them up. There's two different kind of lifting. When people get lifted
Mm.
from the top, then they feel like, oh, the guy is up top and, like, I gotta go up there. No, the best lifting is when we go down to their level and lift them up.
It's from like a humble position as
Humble.
opposed to like exerting our
Yes.
superiority or like, oh, in the mood of like, oh, you're weak, let me help you. It's more like, let's do this together.
Yeah, so that's
And
that's
yeah.
the spiritual competition that is recommended. But what we see Duryodhana is something different.
Mm, that's beautiful. Thank you. Okay, should we go on?
Yes, let's do it.
So we have 4 verses here. We're just going to do them all in a row, 1.5 through 1.8.
Let's do it.
Okay. Go for it, Veda.
Drishtaketuschekitana Kasirajascha Viryavan Purujit Kunti Bhojascha Shaivyascha Narapungava.
Do you want to do this translation also? There's a lot of names I don't want to butcher.
There are also great, heroic, powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraj, Purujit, Kunti Bhoja, and Saibya.
1.6 now.
Yuddhamanyuscha Vikranta, Uttamaujascha Viryavan, Sobhadro Draupadeyascha, Sarva Eva Maharatha.
You can do this one too.
There are the mighty Yuddhamanyu, the powerful Uttamauja, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters.
1.7 now. Text 1.7.
Asmakam tu vishishtaye tannibodha dvijottama nayaka mama sanyasya samgyartham tan bravimite.
But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force. Last one we'll do here, if my computer will switch. There it goes. Okay, 1.8 now.
Bhavan bhishmascha karnascha kripascha samitim jaya ashwathama vikarnascha Somadattistathaiva cha.
There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta, called Bharishrava, who are also victorious in battle. Okay, so what just happened here? We read 4 verses. The first 2 texts, he's talking about the Pandavas' side. He's kind of looking over at them and he's listing off Pandavas or the warriors over there. And then after that, he builds them up so much he wants to encourage his side. So he turns to his side and he starts praising them, saying that they're also strong. So in that 1.7, he turns to them. He says, "But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force." And then he rattles off a list of people on his side. So in this last verse, this 1.8, it goes like, these are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bharishrava, who are also victorious in battle. So he's speaking to Drona, right? In this last verse, he's speaking to Drona, and he's recognizing Drona before Bhishma, right? He says, these are personalities like you, Bhishma. So he says Drona first, which is interesting. He's showing respect to his teacher because he wants to make sure that he's getting respect over everyone, because he's giving his life for the fight. And he particularly knows, again, we talked about this before, that Drona's favorite student is Arjuna, who's on the other side. He's on the Pandava side. And he doesn't want him to have any sympathy for him. So he's making sure he's talked to Drona quite this whole conversation he's had with Drona. He's really making sure to kind of hone it in on Drona, like, look, don't be soft-hearted. And he wants to make sure that he has his full alliance there. And then the other backstory we'll talk about here in this list of characters, we'll only talk about a couple backstories here that are especially relevant and interesting, is Vikarna. Vikarna was listed in this last text. Again, the text of 1.8, the text where he lists people on his side. So Vikarna's on the Kaurava's side, Duryodhana's side, the evil side. And do you want to tell Vikarna's backstory, Veda?
Sure. Who would like to hear a story? Okay, so they're still awake. We haven't put them to sleep yet. So Vikarna is actually the 3rd brother of Duryodhana. Duryodhana is this great prince, right? The cousin of the Pandavas. And so Vikarna has this moral compass that was quite disturbing to his oldest brother Duryodhana, whose wages this war. And that was started when Duryodhana had invited the Pandavas to a gambling match. And in the gambling match, the Pandavas, they had lost their kingdom and they lost their possessions, and they even gambled their own wife. That's pretty crazy. That's, people can gamble your wife. So that's what happened. And when that happened, Draupadi was attempted to be assaulted by the brothers of Duryodhana.
Draupadi is the name of the Pandava's wife. So they all share a wife. The good guys all share the same wife, and her name's Draupadi.
It's crazy. I mean, that's a whole topic in itself, but there's more to it than that. But yes, so when Draupadi was assaulted, the Pandavas couldn't do anything because they had agreed to this gambling match, and part of the match is you gotta honorably, when you lose something, you gotta honor that. So at that time, when they were assaulting her, nobody raised their voice. So when she was going through an experience of injustice, everyone just kept quiet. All the great teachers, all the elders, everybody kept quiet except for this one person, and that was Vikarna. And so Dronacharya was the commander-in-chief, was was warned by Duryodhana by mentioning the name of Vikarna that there is a possibility that this guy could change loyalty.
Like he doesn't totally trust him because he already saw him switch on him once, and so he's like he
No,
doesn't totally trust that he's like in alliance with him. Yeah.
he didn't switch on him. He was more like standing up for the truth. He didn't
Well, he
go.
called him out. He called out like injustice. He didn't just like go along with it like everybody else does for him.
Correct. He didn't follow the. He didn't toe the line.
So he's
And
like a wild card.
yes, so that's why his name is being mentioned. And Duryodhana wanted to really, really pinpoint this possibility to Dronacharya as the commander in chief that you should know this, that there you might have somebody who may switch sides, turn on you. So that's why that name is also being brought out. So he's a interesting diplomatic fellow here, Duryodhana. He knows the nuances and all the details, and he's making sure it's pointed out really clearly.
He's quite a politician. Like this whole kind of section is like him either like goading or there's like reasons. He's very calculated and meticulous in what he says and how he says it and who he says it to, right? To try to like get his side pumped up and make sure that he has really control over them.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah. It's interesting how to so many, like when we talked about Drona's heart being with the Pandavas and him fighting him, the reasons that he's fighting on the Kaurva side. And it's interesting how these relationships kind of play out and how everybody's kind of indebted to somebody. And in this, like a lot of them are indebted to the Kaurva side, to Duryodhana's side, and are fighting and maybe like half-heartedly fighting. So this kind of theme of being indebted, maybe not fully in it yourself, but feeling indebted or feeling like obligated, like, okay, this is what I have to do because I made this vow or I made this commitment. Or what do you think of that, Veda?
I think everybody in this world, they have this quality where they do things because they feel indebted, they feel obligated to do something. It's because they have taken something from someone. And when we really look deep down and we study the ancient yoga texts, they actually explain to us that everyone comes into this world with a debt, that no one is exempt from any debts. We think that we can be debt free because we don't owe the banks any money. But there is another debt called the karmic debt. For example, we are using the light. The sun is providing light. And have we paid anything for it? Georgia Power in Atlanta will come and turn off your power the day you don't pay your bills. But the sun shines. We haven't done anything. And we don't get a bill. We don't get a water bill. We don't get an oxygen bill. I know during COVID, when people were going to the hospitals, they would get massive bills sent to them for being in this, having all this access to oxygen tubes. So there is all these things that are given to us, and we take them for granted. We're feeling that, okay, this whole concept of entitlement comes in because there is not an acknowledgement that there is a higher source providing all of this. And so therefore, this whole principle of debt is really a spiritual principle to understand that we come into this world, we have a debt. And then to our parents. And when parents get older, we almost are like, you did your duty, and now my duty is to make sure that you get put into an old age home, or, and we really limit our responsibility and repaying all the sacrifice that has been made. But in spiritual principle, we see in the case of Dronacharya, he is the guru of all the soldiers, thousands and thousands of soldiers that he has trained in this warfare. And they're all his students. He should not feel indebted, but he feels indebted. Why? Because he has taken, and actually they use the term salt. He has eaten the salt in the house of, or lived by the charity of Duryodhana. And because he has taken payment, he has taken remuneration for his service, place to stay, food and shelter. So therefore he feels indebted, and that's why he's ready to lay down his life. So in our lives, I always feel is very important this principle that we should not be taking from people and incurring more debts. Rather, we should see how to give people more and more and serve people more and more. And because through the practice of service, you become debt free.
Mm.
And another way to become debt free is when you're doing divine activities. Anytime you do any actions that is related to divine work, then you automatically become debt free because the divine will pay your debts for you. It's like your father, you know? You work for your father, father goes and pays your house and pays your loans and pays your credit card bills. So you don't have to worry about it, or pays your student loans. So this important principle that everyone is in debt, to acknowledge that and minimize that debt and think of ways to pay that spiritual debt. And that is simply by serving, simply by sharing that love and continuously cultivating this mood of service. That is how we pay off the debt.
Mm.
You think about that.
I think that on a functional level, this is a spiritual principle that you kind of have to be careful about. I know, when I got my degree, and one of my big motivations in getting an engineering degree was like, I knew that if I got that, I would have no problem getting a job and get paid well. And I could move away and do whatever I wanted. And I felt like I had lived my life doing what other people wanted me to do and feeling like bounded by that because I depended on them, that I just wanted to get out of that completely. So I was like, I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to move away. I'm going to do whatever I wanted. But then I found myself in relationships with other people, not just my family, where I felt dependent on them. And maybe it wasn't for money, maybe it was for like emotional security, or I mean, I could completely take care of myself physically, but I would put myself in relationships with people where it was like I was dependent on them and they would take advantage of it. Use that kind of dependency. If it was emotional dependency, they would use that to kind of control me and get what they wanted out of me. And I feel like, so when you're doing this principle functionally, like you're practicing service and you're giving, you have to be really careful who you do it with in the material world, because you have to do it with somebody that reciprocates on that same level. It wasn't until I got married to my husband who is 100% not like that at all. He's actually, I need to be better about serving him. He's like serves me like endlessly, that it was like, oh, you know what? I actually don't really care about having a job and making money. And my husband was like happy to take care of me. So I was like, I'll do that. But it was only because I felt like it wasn't like a conditional relationship like that. Like I remember going on dates with people and I wouldn't even let them pay for me. I was like, no, thank you. Like, cause I was really trying to figure this out. But it's important that when you're doing it in the material world, that you choose people that you can have that kind of relationship with, and then it becomes very beautiful. Then it becomes like a real genuine offering from your heart of service without conditions.
Yeah, but it's a good point that you bring up. We have to see what have they done for you. For example, if you look at your parents, an average of parents change about 5,000 diapers. That's a lot of diapers in a child's life. How many times and how the parents sacrifice to serve their children, how much the children are given. But then when the parents get older, where are the children? Do they feel that they have incurred any debt? And that's why the whole Vedic culture, the yoga culture, is such that the children were actually uh, taught these values of taking care of parents. How? By the parents taking care of their parents. And they would never throw the children out of their home. 18, get out of the house. No. Stay in the house till you're 50 years old, 60 years old, till we die, and this house is yours. And that's how they would learn to take care of the elders. So the whole society was this beautiful uh, coexistence of loving care. And that's how we paid off the spiritual debts. Because no one can ever pay the debts to their parents. No one can ever pay debts to the sun god, the sun, the moon, the bodies of water, the air.
You know what though? Nowadays though, you can get in such dysfunctional relationships with your parents because your parents are not very skilled or not. And it's not to like beat them down, but it's just to recognize that your parents can also take it
Oh,
too far.
let's stop the cycle. Very fact, the very fact that they have carried us in their bodies for 9 months. Can you imagine you carrying somebody? You can because you're doing it right now.
I
So
know. I got a baby coming.
it's no joke.
It's no joke. It's no joke.
No joke. But how how do we pay back? How do we pay back?
I agree. It's important on some level
We have to
with a
cultivate.
caveat of boundaries.
We have to
I'm not
cultivate.
going to deviate from that, but I agree.
We have to cultivate of somehow making sure that they feel that we have done something back for them.
For
And
sure.
that is yoga culture. And Dronacharya is showing that even though he's an elder teacher, he's showing that for the generations that because I have taken from you, because you have provided for me, I'm going to lay down my lives for you. I mean, can you say that? I'm going to give my life for my parents? It's hard. But this elderly warrior training teacher, he's showing us that there is a deep value to the deep value that we should meditate upon. So that's, my take on this particular verse is very deep.
It's a good one. Thank you. All right, let's do our last verse for the day. You kind of just foreshadowed it. You jumped ahead without, I think, knowing it. So that's perfect. All right,
I'm
our
ready.
next one. What?
I'm ready.
All right, 1.9, text 1.9.
Anye cha vahavasura madarte tyaktva jivita nana shastra praharana sarve yuddha visarada.
So here we go. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons, and all are experienced in military science. So here, Zirona, he's reassuring his forces by saying they are all dedicated to his cause, and he's feeling confident that they're all committed to his cause at this point. It is important to note in this verse, in all of these verses, we've read, he's been listing all of the people on the battlefield that are fighting for him and fighting on the other side, just listing people that are on the battlefield. It's important to note that he left out one person that we all know is on the battlefield, but he didn't say. Does anybody know that one person? If you know the one person, maybe say it on the chat. Does anybody know the one person that he left out that's on the battlefield? Dun, 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 dun. I see somebody typing. Let's see if we get anything here. Okay. I don't see anything yet, but I see somebody typing. Oh, Krishna. Yes. Manasiya got it. Yes. So he left out Krishna. And Krishna is, as we know, the most valuable person on the side of the Pandavas. But Duryodhana devalues him to such an extent that he doesn't even mention him. Like he doesn't even see him. So again, this shows his gross materialism, where he doesn't even consider anything beyond numerical factors or physical fighting. He's so in his material mindset of power and his mind games, and that he's not even he's like devaluing Krishna, who is, as we know, we call Krishna's the divine, Krishna's God, but he's also a great friend, a great counselor, a great teacher. He's all of these things, and he's just like didn't even mention him. So that is again a little like insight into Duryodhana's psychology in this, as we've got to see so much. And yeah, again, and he says this verse here, there are many heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. That's a pretty heavy statement. And Veda, we kind of touched on it in the last one. But these people, yeah, are prepared to lay down their lives for this. Can we think of things we're prepared to lay down our lives for? People we're prepared to lay down our lives for? What do you think, Veda?
I don't know. I mean, yesterday, I think day before yesterday, Balaram was in my room and we were talking. And he asked me this question. Sometimes, he's a very intelligent boy. So he asked me this question. He says, you know, sometimes I wonder what I'm doing. And I have those doubts. And I said, beautiful. It's great to have those doubts. Then I explained to him, I said, when we figure out what you're ready to die for, then you got it, down. Then you'll know what to live for. So here we see Duryodhana making this claim quite boldly, that they're all here to lay down their lives for me. I find it to be it's a pretty bold claim, and it shows a little bit more of his true character, of where his mind is at. Imagine when people think like that. It could be disastrous when people feel like that. And he, being a prince, the heir to the throne, you can see the fluffiness in his ego. And when we are covered by the fluffy ego, then we blind ourselves to the reality of what is there in front of us and what is truly there in our lives. And there we see he misses Krishna, who is this great advisor and a friend and a confidant. In life, the most valuable asset that anyone can have is the dearmost friend, at least one friend and a confidant and a counselor that'll help us cross over all the hurdles and struggles in life. But he completely overlooks that because he could care less about that. He's got that all figured out, is what he thinks. Because his equation is basically equating to his life centered around his ego. And this is interesting how Duryodhana sees, but he doesn't see. It's a Sanskrit word, yapashyati, napashyati. He sees, but he doesn't see. There are many things that we'll see in this world, but we will actually not see. Because it requires a different lens to see it. And Duryodhana obviously doesn't have that lens because he has the ego lens. And that's why he's missing out on seeing Krishna on the battlefield.
Mm.
What do you think, Radha?
I like that. You know, when we go to this first name about who we lay our lives down for, it's interesting to think even like it's so important to make sure that we're climbing up the right tree. You know, we really understand what's at the end of that tree. Like if we're so committing our lives to a career, and we think, but what's at the end of this tree? Like more money, more prestige, things that are going to feed my ego, things that I'm going to be more afraid to lose, things that I could lose tomorrow and then be completely just devastated because I've tied my entire ego to it, right? Or a relationship like one of the relationships I was talking about that's just like not reciprocal or really even worth it, but you're just completely committed to whatever it takes. You know, it's a good to kind of really assess what we are so committed to and why and where that's going to lead us.
I often think, right, when I see the world that we live in, I see people live lives. I see what they're ready to die for. They're ready to die for a 9 to 5 job and a roof over their head and food on the table. But but is there not more to life? Duryodhana is claiming they're all ready to lay their lives down for him to satisfy his ego so he could be the next king. But when I ask myself that question, what is it that I'm doing to lay down my life for? Every day I'm putting my life on the line. For what? So I can eat 2 tortillas and a bowl of salsa and maybe a cheesecake. If
Yeah,
my
right, like animals can do that. My dog does that. He gets in the
kidneys
garbage all
are
the
blown
time.
up. Yeah, it's a serious question that we have to ask ourselves. Because we are not living life, we are actually dying.
Mm.
And that's the beauty of it. Dying is the most beautiful part of it. And living is even more beautiful. But we have to choose to live. Live is not something that happens by default. Dying is something that happens by default. We're all going to kick the bucket. But living is a choice. And that's why I think whenever I read this verse, I was like, what am I living for? Who am I
Mm.
living my life for? And often the answers will come that we're actually living our life for our mind and our senses to gratify the senses. And we do not live our life for the true nature of who we are. So we are dying, we're giving our life to satisfy our senses. That's kind of it's pretty cheap. I think we could do better. It's what I look at myself and I tell myself, Veda, you can do better. And I also request, the students that I'm with, hey, think about it. Who are you ready to die for? What are you ready to die for? All these warriors are ready to die for someone else's ego.
Mm. Yeah.
What about you? So this is a question that we may have to sit on and meditate upon. And that might help us to navigate the choices we make in our lives. That's what I think about this
I
principle.
love that. I love that. It's a good reflection. And the fact that he left Krishna out is also such a good lesson to us in like when you get so carried away in your own ego in your own way, you literally miss things that are right in front of you. And that's scary. You know, that's we can learn so many lessons from this character, Jirodna.
Yeah, we lose ourselves.
Yeah.
I think our time is up.
Okay. That was great. Thanks, Veda. It was fun, as always. And now we want to hear from you guys. Any reflections or questions or takeaways? We would love to hear from
Or
like,
or
yeah,
giveaways
anybody.
or giveaways. They can all
I'll take a giveaway for sure. I'm jobless, so I'm all about a giveaway. Yeah. Anybody have anything?
This class is beautiful. Thank you. The perspectives are just so perfect. Thank you. Making
Thank
my
you so
day.
much for coming, Maria. I'm happy to see you. I hope you can come to our retreat. That would be great. Yeah.
Possibly. Thanks.
Beta and I are doing a retreat in New Vrindavan, which is West Virginia. It's like an hour away from Pittsburgh in October 11th through the 13th. It's a Gita retreat. Well, that's one of the things. We'll have conversations like this, but we'll also do a lot of singing and dancing and discussions and connection. And it'll just be fun, Sangha, uplifting association. So it'd be awesome if some of you guys wanted to come. Maybe we can put the link on the chat. Nitai, could you put the link on the chat, do you think?
I would like to ask Lisa to share her heart with us. She is filled with wisdom from today's discussion on this topic.
Well, first of all, I'd like to echo the thank you for this beautiful class. And and thank you for the invitation to speak my heart. As I was listening to you speak about the king and his failure to mention Krishna, and he would have to fail to mention him because he's not on the same level of being or understanding where he would invite a vision of the divine or a higher vibration or frequency conversation. So if he's trapped in his ego, which is I'm learning he is, he wouldn't actually be able to see the divine. And we have a parallel in the Christian text that speaks about being able to see or to witness the Christ. And it's metaphoric, of course, because it's not speaking of a person, but being able to discern higher wisdom and grace. Mm. And so he also wouldn't be able to call on it because, as you pointed out, he's blocked by his ego. Mm. So I'm loving the backstory of the Gita. I've read it, but the backstory is filling in some of the things that explain, like the feminine, how she was the shared wife of all, which would be the equivalent of the feminine that is being shared, the conscious feminine that's being shared or could be shared, but in an uplifted way versus a violent, hostile way, which you were explaining. So I'm just in love with your offering and Radha's offering this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much. I love drawing the parallels between other traditions, and there's so many. I think that happens with my husband and I all the time. I'll be telling him something like, oh, that's kind of like in the Bible. I'm like, yes,
yeah,
so cool.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to share? Questions, doubts, anything you'd like to challenge?
Challenge Veda.
No.
Don't challenge me.
It's good to have discussions. I think if there's not, Manasi.
Hello, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I am very grateful for these teachings. I can feel the growth in my family already not already, because there's not a linear way to look at knowledge or awareness. So I'm very grateful for these teachings every day. So what I've been meditating on the part where we were talking about, Veda was talking about the debt that we have, like the spiritual debt. That really resonated with me. I think sometimes when we do a lot, we do good deeds, we get discouraged. But if we approach it with the mind of like, hey, I am indicted to, like, I don't pay anything for the sun. I don't pay anything for the air I breathe. I'm just serving. I'm just giving back. So that gives us fuel. For me personally, it gives a fuel. It gives me a different perspective to look at life when I'm doing good deeds, to not expecting anything back because I already receive a lot. So I really love that. And it when we serve somebody else, sometimes we serve people, they don't even acknowledge us, or they don't even say thank you, or they don't even give us anything back. But looking at it as, but I already received so much, you know, you already get paid so much for that. It was just giving back. That gives a different perspective of serving to me, which it really makes it like click something for me. Thank you so much for that.
Beautiful.
Oh, wow. She really encapsulated that beautifully. She should be up here. Thank you.
Yeah, life
Does
itself is a gift, you know. Life, human
Mhm.
birth, is considered to be the most rarest of all gifts. Imagine 8,400,000 species of life, and you're that one human form. And it's beautiful, it's extremely precious, it's extremely priceless, this human life. And so much so that the sages are saying that, my God, you're priceless. And something that is priceless belongs to someone that is priceless. So we actually belong to God because God is priceless.
Mm.
We are part and parcel of God. So in that way, the sages, they write in such humility, saying that Manasa Deho Geho Joki Chumor, beautifully, poetically they write, saying, my existence is yours, my Lord. Almost like Saint Francis also, when you read his life, very fascinating character. He sees divine everywhere, and he's like saying, here I am. I'm an instrument. Engage me. Do whatever you want. It's the beauty of really understanding what a gift we are and how this gift is to be properly engaged in the service.
Nietzsche just put a nice quote on the board. He said, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. Muhammad Ali. That's
Nice.
nice.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Did Holistic Ivy Therapy have a question, or are you just like high-fiving? And I know you told me your name the last time, but I already forgot it. I
Thank you,
apologize.
Is Roberto. It's just I'm using a different phone than
Oh,
what I said.
oh, okay. What's your name again?
Well, so
Roberto.
I'm always
Oh, that's
with my
Roberto. Okay.
Roberto.
That's what
Yes.
I was thinking that, but I didn't want to get it wrong. Okay, so you
Yeah,
guys are
I'm
the
on my
couple.
way. I'm on my way.
Great.
Yeah, I'm on my way to work. So, but I didn't
You're
want to
not
miss it.
together. Got it.
No, not today. So
Awesome.
one thing I want to point out though, that really stand out for me is when Veda was talking about the ego of I don't want to say the name wrong.
The
That
prince.
Astra.
The prince.
Yeah, the prince. Yes. So right before you mentioned the ego, I was thinking, man, that was very egotistic of him saying that everybody's willing to lie their life for him. Cause, and then when you went on to explain, how that reflects in our everyday life, it got me thinking, like, so the things that we are willing to die for, that we think if we die for those things, it's gonna be a good thing. It's gonna be something great. When in actuality, it's only your ego speaking to you, and it's deceiving you, kind of like putting your worth or your value into things that really don't have any value for you, for your higher self, for your spiritual life, or for serving others. But just that egotistic voice in you just saying, yeah, do this, do that, or believe this or believe that. and that really struck me. And so I just wanted to share that. Yeah.
That was also beautiful. Nice reflection. Thanks for sharing that.
So
Thank you.
we have to call it an end because now it's past 9.
Okay, here we are. Thank you all. And if you do miss us, you can listen on any podcast platform or YouTube. So they're recorded. Thank you so much.
Where do they find you?
Hi, Krishna.
On Veda's bio, in Veda's bio on his Instagram, you can go to the link tree and you can find the podcast on all platforms. You can find the podcast on YouTube. You can join the Seeker's Quest thread so that you get updates about it live. All of the things, Veda's link tree. And the link is now on the chat because Nitai is amazing. So thank you.
Thank you all so much, beautiful souls. Happy Janmashtami. And hope you all have a wonderful week. And we look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Souls.
Hi, Krishna.
Oh my gosh, adorable. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Bol.
So sweet.
Hi,
Haribol.
Thank you.